Good morning. Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. I'm Tony Haggerty at Haggerty10 on the Twitter handle, as you know, and I'm joined today by Aidan Macdonald at Aidan C. Macdonald on the Twitter handle. I usually call you young Aidan Macdonald, don't I? But there you go. Depends on how you look at these things. Morning, Aidan. How we doing?
Yeah, I'm good, Tony. How are you?
Yes, I'm good. It's Thursday, the 30th of March. Club football can't come quick enough, can it? Sunday, we roll into Dingwall. We'll talk about that in greater detail probably tomorrow, Aidan, but there you go. Now, first and foremost, as we do every morning, we always direct you to the ticker tape running along the bottom, and it's hopefully easy for me to say, Aidan, hopefully asking people to subscribe, and we thank everybody that's done that already, but subscribe to the Celtic Way and support top quality football journalism covering the club you love. It'll cost you £2 for 2 months for unlimited access to everything that's written on the website, all for the click of a button, guys. www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. That's www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. And we also say thank you to SENECA. And as you all know by now, the Celtic Way Morning Briefing is now sponsored by SENECA Medical Group. And SENECA are the #1 hair transplant company in Europe, and they offer innovative hair restoration treatments. And you can find out more about SENECA via the links in the description of this video. Now, guys, we want to get you involved as well. Throw your questions up in the comments section, and myself and Aidan will attempt to answer them on the proviso that we can, Aidan. Isn't that right? But yeah, we want you to get involved. Any questions for the two of us, guys, throw them in, and we'll endeavour to work our way through them and give you an honest answer as much as we can. Now, Aidan, let's just start by saying happy birthday to Jota. It's Jota's 24th birthday today, and we say happy birthday to Jota, and we're all delighted that he's part of the Celtic family, aren't we?
Yeah, it was obviously a really important one for Ange to get over the line in the summer. It dragged on. As we know, Jota went on a world tour of some sort, seemed to be visiting pretty much every continent at one point on an extended holiday, but eventually obviously came, he signed on a long-term deal, which was massive for Celtic, given how important it was last season. So yeah, definitely happy that he's here, Tony.
Now, the reason I bring up Jota, and you were filling me in, knowledge is the bomb and all that, Aidan, you were telling me he's got 11 goals and 9 assists in 35 games this season, and he's almost reaching his tally from last season, which is 13 goals and 14 assists in 40 games. But you brought that up because there's a clip of him doing the rounds, and it's called the Paradise Playback, isn't it? And Jota is watching the one and only Henrik Larsson doing what he does and scoring that wonderful chip goal over Stefan Klos in the 6-2 game, the original demolition derby, Mark O'Neill's first experience of the Glasgow derby when Celtic hammered Rangers 6-2. And I'll let you into a secret there, Aidan. That's the first Celtic Rangers derby that I ever covered as a journalist. So as no bad things go, it was actually no bad. There you go. And we spoke to Chris Sutton after it as well. And yeah, it was memorable for all sorts of reasons, Aidan.
Yeah, I mean, that's the game, isn't it, really? When you think about it in terms of like Celtic Rangers matches, that's one everybody really talks about, particularly from the modern era. But it was great to see that clip from Jota. He was saying as well in the YouTube video that was the first time he'd seen that goal. I'm a bit surprised at that, to be honest, given how regularly it just gets played at, Parkhead and anything Celtic related in general. But yeah, he was saying that was the first time that he'd seen that, and he'd heard about how good a finish it was, and he couldn't believe it. And I think it's probably a lot of fans still can't believe how good a goal it was, Tony. Almost coming up to this summer, it'll be 23 years ago, won't it? So yeah, phenomenal. And it was good to see. Nothing better than a high quality player now talking about one of the best players that's ever played for Celtic.
Now, when I described these 242 goals for the Puller, I'm sure I called that a thing of beauty, Aidan. I remember specifically referring to that as a thing of beauty. And it was a wonderful goal, but Jota's reaction to it is priceless, isn't it? Kind of jaw drops and he's smiling and he's kind of like, oh wow. It's like he's in awe of the greatness that is Henrik Larsson, the phenomenal goal-scoring phenomenon. 242 goals in 315 games, and Jota's like, it's quite an appreciation of that, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely is, and I've got the impression he's going to try that between now and the end of the season, Tony. Whether or not that's against Rangers in the upcoming match, I don't know, but I have a feeling he's going to see if he can do that. Whether or not he can, I don't know, but I would back him to at least try it anyway.
Do you know what? I'll have to be honest. I thought his goal in the 4-0 game, the clip over Alan McGregor, was similar in terms of, but it was from an angle. But I thought it was a similar type finish, and I would kind of compare the two in that sense. I mean, obviously, Chilwell coming in here and saying best goal he's ever seen in a derby game. It was right in front of him, and SD16 always get goosebumps thinking of that goal. I don't think there's a Celtic supporter who, whenever they see that goal, doesn't enjoy it, regardless of how many times they've seen it and they know what's coming. There's a brilliant. What makes it for me is that the ball boy. The ball boy just goes absolutely tonto. He's jumping up and down, kind of Martin O'Neill style, and he just knows he's witnessed something absolutely sensational. And I think Ian Crocker, Sky Sports commentator, brilliant Ian Crocker, I think he said it was world class, didn't he? I'm sure he said it was world class, and it was.
Yeah, it was world class. I mean, obviously, there's probably not much we can add to talking about this game. At that point, obviously, you were saying yourself, you covered it at the time, and it was coming up to 23 years ago. But the way he sort of gets the ball up and down, because it did have a wee bit of sort of space to do it, but it wasn't like he chipped it from the halfway line or anything like that. But the way it sort of the ball goes up and goes down is phenomenal. I've not seen a goal like it, to be honest. There's obviously been some brilliant players. I'm not even just including Celtic here, just since then. But I've never quite seen a chipped goal like that. You've seen players catching out goalkeepers from the halfway line or maybe even a wee bit further back, but there was just something special about that. And I know you were mentioning Jota's goal, comparing the two. Probably the only thing it was missing was a wee nutmeg before it, in terms of Jota's goal. But as you did point out, it was also a very tight angle that Jota converted from, because it was almost going out. He was almost going out to the right hand side. So it was a very impressive one, but I think Larson probably still just pips it.
Chilwell saying, he said that is sensational. I'm sure he said it was world class as well. Alan Robertson saying David Prowell echoed the world class comment. Paul Byrne coming in, Croc said that is sensational. It did indeed. Yeah, but I think everybody, Pete McGee comes in and says, my favourite ever Celtic player and my favourite ever Celtic goal. Yep, indeed. Paul Byrne says, David Prowell said that was a very special goal from a very special player. And Alan Robertson says Big Bert's legs are still open. I still, to this day, don't know what Bert Conterman was thinking of trying to win the ball in the way that he did, but he didn't. Chilwell says the nutmeg too, indeed. And George Townsley comes in and says Paul Lambert goal was spectacular, he said as well. So there you go. But now, if you get a chance to look at that clip, I think, have you put something up on it, Aidan, or you're going to put something up on it? Something up on the website? It's there, isn't it?
Yeah, there'll be something going up on the website about it today, but it's on Celtic's YouTube channel. If anybody wants to just go on and see it, it'll be one of the last uploads, because I think it only got put on their channel last night, so it'll be sitting there if anybody's wanting to.
Paradise Playback, because they also had a few others looking at stuff, didn't they? Joe
there was a few others looking at other goals, but obviously that one was the standout, clearly given the two players involved. Yeah.
Alan Woods, this is the stuff that Celtic dreams are made of if we're doing Crocker quotes. That was just kind of sprung to my mind, that kind of thing. But yeah, it was, we try and, international, we try and fill it with Celtic content, even, and that kind of leapt out at me, Jota's kind of reaction to. There's also Cameron Carter-Vickers' kind of blasé reaction to a John Hartson goal at Anfield. It's kind of like, as if decent strike type thing, he seems very unmoved by it all, doesn't he? But kind of giving it the nod of approval, which is priceless. I really like that too.
That seems kind of like classic Cameron Carter-Vickers, doesn't it? In terms of like his interviews, and he appreciates it, but he's not getting too carried away, which is fine, Tony. Do you know what I mean? He's consistent.
Oh, correct. Yeah, indeed. But if you get a chance to watch that, guys, Aidan will put the Jota reaction up on the site, but Paradise Playback, I think it's called, on the Celtic website, isn't it? So just on cue, my dogs decide to go off their head. But there you go. I think that's an appreciation of Larsson's goal as well. I think that's sensational barking there, as you would call that. Indeed, dear oh dear. Apologies for that, but there you go. Now, Aidan, Graham Arnold has been speaking about his compatriot Ange Postecoglou at Celtic Park, and Graham Arnold, who is the current Socceroos manager, and he was a rival with Ange for the Australia job back in 2013. But he's saying, can you hear that, Aidan? Is my dog going?
You can hear the dog going a wee bit mental, Tony, but it's okay.
Yeah, but it's not spoiling the viewing, isn't it? Let me know, guys. Dear oh dear. Anyway, Graham Arnold was saying, bigging up Ange and talking about the job he's doing at Celtic, because he was appeared on BBC's Sacked in the morning, and he said, look, I think I'll see how things go for the first 6 months of the year, but my heart is with the green and gold, the Australian boys. Club football is always something that I do miss. I miss being around the players, building their culture in the dressing room and playing games every week. He said, but Ange is doing a fantastic job. And he also said, that's why my dog's going mental, the window cleaner's here. He said, but Ange is doing a fantastic job at Celtic, and obviously Australia is very, very proud of him, but it would have to be a good club for me to change from Australia. So basically, he's sort of bigging up Ange and saying that Ange is doing a wonderful job, and he was asked about, would he go back into club football? He's loving the Australian gig at the minute, but he's clearly looking at what Ange has achieved and is looking on at that and thinking, is there a road back in for him at club football? Because Ange is taking Celtic by storm, really.
Yeah, I mean, you can understand, given the sort of platform Ange went from the Australian national team job to J-League success to then coming to Celtic, so Graham Arnold could be looking at something similar. Obviously, you can never recreate the exact path that any manager did, no matter how many similarities, but I think Graham Arnold, he obviously has a decent manager, did well at the World Cup, big victories over Denmark, etc., getting to the last 16. And I think they were ultimately knocked out by Argentina, who obviously went on to win it, so there's no shame in that. But yeah, he probably is. There's probably other managers in Australia as well, maybe that are in the A-League that are looking at the path Ange went on and thinking, oh, I feel I'm able to do that, which is probably why he's been described by a lot of the Australian media as quite a trendsetter, even before he came to Celtic, in terms of, starting off in the A-League national team, then going somewhere else, that in that case being Japan, and being successful there. He sort of raised the profile and the bar for what Australian coaches can do, and that's why Graham Arnold making comments like that. And I'm sure, to be honest, there is probably a lot of clubs looking at Graham Arnold based off how well he did at the World Cup, but I think he'll probably want to stick out Australia for a wee bit longer. But obviously, any Australian commenters will be much better placed than me or you, Tony, to comment on that. But
correct, but also, I mean, people will look upon Ange and look at what he's done, and they might start to, go to Australian coaches and coaches from Japan and things like that, up and coming coaches or people that are seeing are being successful, and in that kind of sense, Ange really has blazed a trail for these people now, hasn't he? People are looking on at what he's done. I mean, you just need to look at every job Ange gets linked to now, every big job, count them. But he seems perfectly happy at Celtic, and he's got a good thing going at Celtic.
Yeah, he does seem to have a very good thing going at Celtic, and obviously the recent one's been the Tottenham job with Conte being sacked. So there's been the inevitable speculation. I'm sure he'll probably I know it kind of happened during the international break, so I'm sure he'll get asked about it tomorrow, Tony, at some point. Yeah. It's just the way things are, even though Spurs have already confirmed their manager till the end of the season. But I'm sure it will be in a discussion from one of the questions from the press. But yeah, we've mentioned obviously a lot now about Ange, how the reason we think he's going to be at Celtic.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go.
That's all right, Tony. No worries. I'll just finish what I was saying there. I reckon Ange will be here for the foreseeable for the reasons that me, Tony, and Sean have discussed before. Unless there was a mega job that was to come along, maybe the very top echelons of English football, for example, because I think he is building a project. I'm sure he wants another crack at the Champions League. He'll be wanting more domestic success. He'll want to improve the squad as well, I'm sure, in the summer across various other transfer windows. So I think it is probably, in my opinion, hopefully likely that he'll be here for a wee bit longer. Well, Tony's away, guys. If you've got any more questions or that, if you want to just file them in, and I'll be able to answer them. I think Tony might be on his way back now. Yeah,
back in the room. Sorry about that.
Tony. Hello.
The dangers of, someone said, live TV. Honest to God. But there you go.
I was just talking about there, Tony, how obviously we've discussed previously our reasons why we think Ange will be here for at least another while, based off the project he is building, having another crack at the Champions League, improving the squad, etc. I'm trying not to repeat myself too much because I know we have discussed it quite a lot, but I know that those are all sentiments that you echo as well.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah. I mean, and he speaks like a manager who's in it for the long haul, doesn't he? You know, he keeps talking about he's got lots to achieve, and despite the fact people throw up, he's been linked to this club and that club, some people are still not getting the memo that he is happy where he is, and keep talking about a longer term contract and all that. So it's you know, I just, we all live in the moment, Aidan, don't we? We enjoy him while he's here, and I think he's the kind of manager that will tell you when he's going to go, and let you know in the fullness of time when that will be. But I don't think that's anytime soon, because I think he's enjoying being at Celtic. He's enjoying winning. He's enjoying building that culture, that environment, and building a winning team. And he's enjoying the product and the style of football and the manner in which they're winning. And I think everybody has bought into that, from the top of the club to the players to the staff and certainly the fans. So it's a good thing, you know, and he would be giving a lot up if he were to move, and I think he knows that too. But I don't see him moving any time soon, because as I've said constantly, why can't Celtic fulfil the manager's ambition, both domestically and in Europe? Why can't Celtic become a competitive club in Europe? And I think he wants to see this season, or obviously the next season, on the proviso they win the title, go straight back into the Champions League group. We've spoken about improvement would be winning group stage matches against high calibre opposition. That's what he really wants. And if they can't qualify from the group, at least get into the Europa League and then make a fist of it in that. And I think that's Andy's ambition for Celtic, and I think it's every Celtic supporter's ambition for the club.
Yeah, I think that sort of European path that you mentioned there, it would be steady progress. Obviously, fans would want to be qualifying for the next round of the Champions League if Celtic do win the league and make the group stages, but it can be tough based off your group. I think if they were to finish third next season in their section and get into what would be the last, I think you drop into the last 32 of the Europa League, if that was to be, or the sort of playoff round as it's now known, that would be progress based off finishing bottom in the Champions League group this season. That would be, I think fans would be okay with that if they were to then go on a bit of a run, and obviously kind of get the sort of monkey off the back about not winning a knockout tie for an extended period of time. Now I can completely understand that's not all Ange, that's pretty much every manager that's been here since Martin O'Neill. Since Gordon Strachan, I should say. No, Martin O'Neill, because Gordon Strachan got to the last 16 twice, but didn't actually win any of the matches. Not that we would expect him to, it was two tough ties, but so that's not all on Ange, but I think getting that monkey off the back would be quite good, probably just from the fans' point of view, Tony. I mean, I'm obviously not trying to speak for you or other people, but I think that probably has frustrated that even in recent years, for example, the season that ended up getting stopped by COVID, that Celtic topped the group with Lazio and Rennes, then going out to Copenhagen in the last 32, that kind of felt like that campaign was a chance to, you know, I'm not saying win the Europa League, but maybe go on a run and win a couple of knockout ties, and it all kind of went a bit pear-shaped, didn't it? So I think if Ange was to overcome that sort of hurdle, that would be a big one. That
one in particular, I felt like I really missed a big missed opportunity, Aidan, certainly losing to Copenhagen. Pete McGee coming in saying everything that Ange says and does suggest that he's a man who's found his nirvana. Jill Bell says he hopes so. And Andrew Gillier saying Celtic have got to move on quite a few players over the summer, but we'll have to hold on to some for the homegrown numbers. We touched upon that the other day as well, didn't we? Now, Steve McGrory, morning Steve, regular contributor, he's coming in asking this. Aidan, just a wee change of topic. Do you think that Tomoki Iwata is before David Turnbull in the midfield pecking order now? And he appreciates that Tomoki is more of a defensive midfielder, but but that was 4 consecutive matches when he was brought off the bench and Turnbull wasn't. What's your thoughts on that, Aidan?
I think that is also an interesting start with Iwata playing ahead of Turnbull off the bench, or coming off the bench, before Turnbull a number of times. But I think probably at the moment they're still relatively equal in the pecking order, which maybe in itself is an achievement, given obviously for Iwata that a couple of months ago he wasn't even at the club. We've mentioned with David Turnbull, his numbers are pretty good based off the minutes he's had.
Sure.
I think I've quoted it before, but Sean pulled out that stat. Turnbull's only played the equivalent based off all his appearances to 14 full matches this season. So I think it's 5 goals, 7 assists, or whatever it is. Those are decent numbers in that time. But there's also been a discussion about, does he properly fit the Ange system? You know, other players, even without touching on Iwata, Hatate, Moy, who's came in this season, McGregor, O'Reilly, probably are all ahead of David Turnbull in the pecking order. And then when you introduce Iwata, I think at the moment they're probably quite equal in terms of their sort of stance on when they'll come on as a substitute, with the sort of caveat being that if McGregor was to get a knock, Iwata could then come on in that position, and then Iwata could also maybe go a wee bit further forward, or Ferdy can also play at centre back as well. Whereas if Turnbull's probably looking for one of the sort of 2 number 8s to move the field before he can get on. So Iwata's maybe a wee bit more adaptable in that sense. But at the moment, Tony, I would say they're probably on a sort of equal footing, just because Iwata's not long at the club.
I think Steve mentioned that because I think there was footage yesterday of training, and Moy and Hatate were absentees, weren't they? Notable absentees. So I think Steve was just kind of, maybe Steve can tell me if he is, and saying that if either of those 2 are missing, would Iwata fill that void on Sunday against Ross County? Could you see him coming in alongside Calmac and or whoever, you know? But I mean, they're 2 massive players for Celtic. If the 2 of them were out, it would be a huge blow for Ange. But obviously, we'll find that out in the fullness of time tomorrow. But I think he was just throwing it up there because maybe he's thinking, you know, for his own predicted 11, maybe Iwata would step into a role on Sunday in Dingwall if either or both Moy and Hatate were absent.
Yeah, it's definitely something to consider. I would imagine maybe that Turnbull would start if that was the case. If Moy and Hatate, were both absent, then I'd imagine it would maybe be Turnbull and O'Reilly with sort of McGregor still at the number 6 position. Could be wrong there. Fingers crossed that Moy and Hatate are both okay, just since we're discussing that. Both picked up knocks before the international break. Hatate wasn't already called up by Japan, as we've discussed. Moy, I think, would have been probably if he didn't have his knock, because he usually does play for Australia, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
Fingers crossed they are all right. They weren't included in that training footage. It was quite a short highlight reel. And I know in the past, the sort of recent example was before the League Cup final last season. Kyogo wasn't in any of the training footage through the week, and then bang, he's starting against Hibs. But hopefully, maybe they were doing some, extra gym work or work with the physio, etc. Fingers crossed that they are all right, because they're really important players, and not just for, don't want to look too far ahead, because I know it's Ross County at the weekend, but with the sort of next game against Rangers on the horizon, those are not players you'd want out for that game, if possible.
Most certainly not, but yes, Steve's come in and said yes, I was thinking ahead to Sunday's starting 11. If either or are missing and Tomoki Iwata does come in for a start, I wouldn't be averse to that. I've got to say, I've liked his cameos, Steve, if that's what you're asking, and I think the manager would certainly trust him to play 90 minutes, wouldn't he, Aidan, if that was the case?
Yeah, I think so, and he's also had another 2 weeks sort of training time as well. I'd imagine he'd be one that is probably maybe in doing a wee bit extra, given that he's not started a lot. I don't think he's actually started a game for Celtic. That's right, it's all been appearances off the bench so far, because the time he arrived. So I think he probably will be. I think he'll be a contention for that starting position if both those guys are injured. But fingers crossed that it doesn't come to that. But this is another one, isn't it, for tomorrow to see what Ange says. Yeah, I feel I've been saying that a lot over the last 2 weeks, but it is true, to be fair.
Danny McCrone comes in and says, I would prefer Iwata start over Turnbull. Well, there you go. I think that's Danny agreeing with Steve, because I think that's what Steve's thinking. I don't. As you flagged up, that Turnbull stats are pretty good. I just think that
given his minutes.
Yeah, I just expect a wee bit more from Turnbull. That's maybe because I think he's a talented and gifted player, and I think also as well the Celtic supporters maybe want to see more of Steve coming in here, just about to say that, voted best player in the J League, so looking forward to seeing more of Iwata, and I think a lot of Celtic supporters want to see more of what he can bring to the table.
Yeah, I think fans are hoping that he's maybe going to get a run in the team, whether that's maybe longer substitute appearances or starting a match, given that he is more of a sort of number 6 / you can also fill in centre half, and those positions are pretty much locked down, you would imagine, between now and the end of the season, with McGregor in the middle of the park and Carter Vickers, Starfelt at centre back, unless there's obviously a wee knock. I think it is going to be difficult, but you've mentioned it before, Tony, that you think Iwata is going to be a big player for next season, and particularly for Europe, if Ange maybe does tweak slightly what he's doing in the middle of the park. And I've been thinking about that point a lot. I thought that was definitely worth touching on, because maybe he is going to be part of the sort of, I don't mean different way that Celtic's going to play in Europe next season, whether that's Champions League or whatever, because we know Ange's got his set style, but there might just be a slight tweak here and there, and maybe Iwata's going to be able to provide that.
Yeah, I mean, you know my thoughts on that. I've spoken about that quite extensively, but I think, in terms of tweaking, I think maybe games like Ross County might be the one to bed him in for his first 90 minutes and just see how he copes, that kind of thing. If, again, the other players are not available, I wouldn't be averse to seeing Iwata come in. Quite like the look of him. So Keimatsu was saying Iwata will almost certainly be starting next season. Ange would not have signed him if that wasn't his intent. I kind of agree with that. I've got to say that as well. Keimatsu, yeah, indeed. And TJ the Legend says Turnbull will start at any other club in the league. I've no doubt he would. I think he's a talented player. It's just that there's better players in front of him in the pecking order just now. As Steve said, he's kind of slipped down that pecking order. But the manager still rates him. He always kind of name checks him, doesn't he? And says he's got a valid contribution to make. So we'll see if any of those two aren't available, Moy and Hatate, on Sunday. We'll see what the manager decides. Derek Crawford says Iwata will play in a 2 for Europe with Cal Mack. That's what I've been saying for a while, isn't it? Pete McGee, we've only seen a little of Iwata, but in my opinion, looks like a bit of a player. He seems much more competitive than Turnbull, who's a talented boy, no doubt, but hardly sets the grass on fire. Kind of echoing what our own sentiments there about the players, Aidan.
Yeah, I think all those comments are fair, to be honest. About Turnbull, and I don't disagree that he would probably start at any other team in the league, and I also feel that maybe you are expecting a wee bit more just from what he's doing. I don't want to be criticising him too much, because, as I'm saying, his numbers are actually quite good given the limited time. It's not like obviously last season he went that massive run at the start of the season when just because of the squad, the state it was in, the same players were basically having to play all the time, and Turnbull racked up a lot of appearances. He's not had to do that this season because Celtic have recruited, and that's maybe that is his role now, is coming off the bench and chipping in with a goal and an assist, or being able to sort of find that wee bit of creativity from a set piece, which I think's fine, but whether or not longer term he would want to do that, when he probably views himself as being like a starter for the majority of teams, and at some clubs being like, the main creative outlet. It doesn't look like, based off this season, he's going to get the chance to do that going forward at Celtic, or this season anyway, based off the sort of his minutes at the moment. Like I say, it's basically equivalent to about 14 full games he's played, and we're getting very much into the business end of the season now. So I'd imagine that it'll be interesting this summer, I think, Tony, to see what happens with Turnbull. He's got that 1 year left on his deal. I know I've discussed this before, so trying not to repeat myself too much, but if there's an extension, or does he move on, or does he just stay for another year, because Ange would rather have an important player than he maybe leaves for nothing in the following season. I don't know, but it'll be interesting.
Depends how long the player himself is willing to put up with being an impact player too, doesn't it? If he gets kind of feels that his future lies elsewhere. But as I say, I like Turnbull as a footballer. Michael Ross saying Turnbull gets so much criticism from the Celtic fans. We need Turnbull for the homegrown talent. Seems a rarity. I get that argument too, that terms of Champions League squads, they need a certain quota of homegrown players, which is another reason why Celtic might not consider letting them go. Aidan?
Yeah, I mean, that could be an easy sort of fix for topping up the homegrown player squad for Europe next season, as you've got Turnbull there. My thing with Turnbull is obviously since he broke into the team at Motherwell, he'd kind of been starting a lot and being one of the main players. Then he gets that season with injury, obviously, right, and then he doesn't really feature, does he? Comes back, plays briefly for Motherwell, then signs for Celtic. When he eventually breaks into the Celtic team during that season, as we call it, Tony, he is one of the main players who then plays all the time.
Yeah.
And then up until he gets injured last season, he's playing all the time. So he's had to really adjust after a good sort of 4 or 5 competitive seasons of his career, not including obviously the year he was out, of always pretty much playing or being one of the main creative outlets to then being a bit of a bit part player. Now, we obviously don't know David Turnbull's exact thoughts. We're not claiming to. Maybe he is all right with that and he is going to sign a contract extension. But I just always wondered whether or not he would maybe see himself as being able to sort of contribute more, whether it's at Celtic or elsewhere.
Yes, I agree with that, yeah. But, I mean, that'll... Obviously, as I say, the manager still rates him and still reckons he's got...
He always mentions him, Tony.
Like, yeah, he does. He always does. So I reckon he still thinks he's got an important part to play. And I think based on that, then I would like to see him being offered a new contract. Because I still think he's a decent impact player, more than a decent impact player. But I think if he can rediscover some for him, then he might give the manager, don't say headaches, but quandaries, Aidan.
Yeah.
There are better players in front of him, but that's not to say that he can raise his game to that level moving forward.
Yeah, no, I'd be more than happy for that. And I think even if it was potentially maybe a Stuart Armstrong situation, he signed a sort of 2-year extension or 3-year extension, then you get another season out of him. And then the following summer, if he goes, he's then got a few years on his deal. Maybe that's the best situation for all parties. That's maybe a bit of a lazy example, but that's the sort of one I was thinking of, just because I think before Armstrong signed his extension, he only had just about a year left. Put pen to paper on either 2 or 3 years, then also Celtic got a decent fee for him. Whether or not you would get the same for Turnbull, I don't know, but I think maybe that could be a situation. But also Ange probably just wants the best players as well. So if it was a case of Turnbull does stay for another year and then he maybe does leave for nothing, if Ange thinks he's an important contributor for the squad and he's maybe not able to get a replacement for him in terms of numbers or what he can bring, that could be, and also the homegrown quota as well that the commenters are mentioning, that could be another situation that happens. Obviously, ideally Celtic get money for all players that leave, but sometimes that isn't always the case.
Yeah. Now, before we go, I wanted to flag up Kevin McKenna's piece on the website. I'll put it into the comment section there. There it is. You want to have a read at that. It's an excellent piece on how Celtic's... people complain about Celtic's resources, but he's talking about the Celtic Academy producing young players, and even if they aren't good enough to play for Celtic, they benefit other clubs, Aidan, because the guys have had a great grounding, great education, and they're still decent footballers. He even quoted a piece that I did on Cairn McInroy. He was talking about that fact, that he knew his time at Celtic was up when he's gone on to sign for Kilmarnock, and he was talking about Callum McGregor being at Notts County alongside Jack Grealish and then coming back and happening to make it, and Grealish obviously going back to Villa and making it as well. He was just sort of saying that Celtic do a lot for those players and it's other clubs that benefit from them, even when they don't make the grade at Celtic. So he was never saying that Celtic have got all the financial muscle, but other clubs are benefiting. To say that it's a lazy argument and saying it's nonsense, that Celtic do contribute a lot to Scottish football because others reap the benefit of those players if they don't make it at Celtic.
Yeah, that was the sort of crux of what Kevin was sort of arguing, the point he was making. He was trying to get across that he feels that some of the comments about Celtic's resources under sort of playing the achievements that the club's had, because that aren't really fair, because the sort of resources that Celtic have is helping, like you say, produce players for other teams in the country. But it's definitely interesting. He obviously has a wee bit about Mikey Johnson as well, and discusses whether he thinks he might be able to make it based off what he's seen from him and how he's got on in his loan spell. But yeah, no, it's definitely worth a watch. Worth a read if you get the chance.
Excellent. And it's on the, I've put the link to it up there, guys. It's on the website. You can have a read at that. Well, that was a dog-interrupted daily briefing. Sorry about that. Sorry about the dog. Can't control wildlife, can you? Especially when the window cleaner turns up. He's a Carpathian shepherd called Ben, and that's his job. He's a protector. So yeah, that's what he's doing. He's just protecting the house and the family. So good on him. But yeah, hope he didn't spoil your enjoyment of the briefing. There you go. Tony on the wing. Tony on the wing. There you go. I'll try and get the dog to sing that at some point as well. Davey, thank you for that. But yeah, as I say, I hope he didn't spoil your enjoyment of your ability to hear the briefing at certain points. I had to go down and give him the stare. Aidan, I think I gave him the Ange stare. You know, that was enough to quieten him down. But there you go.
You didn't say mate, no?
I didn't. Well, I don't think I said mate. I think I just gave him the stare and I gave him the finger, and he sat up and he just kind of. No, he's quite an obedient kind of guy. You know, he's all right. But it's just when people come into the garden and come into your territory and threaten it. That's what he's brought up to do. He's from Bosnia. He's a Bosnian rescue agent, and he was to protect sheep from wolves and things like that. So when anyone comes close, that's what he does. But that's good to hear, Andrew, that the dog wasn't a problem. But yeah, in no way did the dog spoil it. I'm glad about that. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. But yeah, I'll maybe get him on. You can see him one day. And that speaks more sense than me, I think you'll find. But guys, thanks very much. Can't do it without you. We say it every day. I really appreciate your comments and questions coming in. We always do our best to answer them as honestly as we can. But we'll direct you to the ticker tape running along the bottom, and it's subscribe, as we always ask you to do every day. If you haven't done it already, you can watch briefings like this, and you can subscribe to the Celtic Way website and support top quality journalism covering the club you love. And it'll cost you £2 for 2 months of unlimited access to everything that's written on the website. Some cracking stuff up there today, and Aidan will be putting the Jota thing up later, won't he? You can see his reaction to Henrik Larsson scoring that wonderful chip goal. All for a click of a button, guys. www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. And we also say thank you to SENECA. And as you know by now, the Celtic Way morning briefing is sponsored by SENECA Medical Group. SENECA are the #1 hair transplant company in Europe, and they offer innovative hair restoration treatments. And you can find out more about SENECA via the links in the description of this video. Cheers for your company, guys. Cheers to Ben as well, getting his say. Aidan, thank you for your contribution, first class, and thank you for speaking to the viewers when I had to go downstairs. You stepped in well there, my good friend. Nice one. I appreciate that. But guys, we'll see you tomorrow. Club football's back, Aidan. And I believe you're going on holiday, aren't you?
Yeah, I won't be here for a few days, which your commenters might be glad to know about. But yeah, so I will, but I'm looking forward to club football the weekend, Tony. No doubt about that.
You'll be sunning yourself in Portugal, I believe. Is that right?
Yes, yeah, just for a few days. But yeah, looking forward to it.
We'll have a wonderful time. Thank you for your contribution to the excellent. We'll see you when you get back. All right. Have a good one. Take care, guys. See you tomorrow.
Cheers, guys.